Second session Cyber Podium for the day. Let's join our session now. You are pleased to come here because we're going to have the presentation from the Crest company soon. Please join us. So now, without further ado, let's move on to our next topic for today, which is the building trust in the digital world by raising standards in the global cyber security industry. Without further ado, I would like to invite the chairman and regional advocate for Crest Asia, Mr. Hamilton, to present the ideas. Please welcome.
All right. Okay, let's get started. You guys want to sit forward?
Come and take your seats. Come and take your seats.
Okay, everyone's shy. All right, let's get started. Hi everyone, I'm Emil. I am the chairperson of Crest in Asia, and I'm going to talk about how in Crest that we build trust in the digital world by raising standards in the global cybersecurity industry. So Crest, we are a international non-profit organizations. So we represent members. So who are these members? They are our service providers who provide all different kinds of cybersecurity services. I'm going to touch a little bit more about that. And we also certify practitioners. We certify individuals. So we are international. Our HQ, we are actually headquartered in the UK, but we have presence all around the world. And one of our biggest presence, aside from in the UK and Europe, is actually in fact Asia. And we represent many countries in Asia, including Malaysia as well. So just a little bit about Crest. Crest was established back in the mid-2000s. So security is a very young field. So although we are talking about less than 20 years ago, but back in the days it was still kind of a little bit like the Wild West when it comes to cybersecurity. So Crest, everyone was kind of in the service, in the industry, in the cybersecurity industry, providing all different kinds of services like vulnerability assessments, penetration testings, in response, and so on and so forth, right? Like including like people, there's lots of controls, people coming out with standards saying that you need this controls, that controls, you need to do monitoring, you need to do incident response, and so on and so forth. And there are a lot of companies coming out trying to meet that demand, right? And say that they are providing all these services. But exactly how it's being provided, are they really doing it properly, right? Are they doing it such that it fulfills the actual requirements? No one knows, right? So, and that's how or why Crest was kind of set up back in the mid-2000s, which is to actually tackle this economy breakdown, right? Because everyone wants assurance by pen testing or whatever else it is, but no one knows what's good. No one knows what good looks like at all. Right, so that's where Crest was established. Right, we signpost what security controls should be delivered, especially in 5 of our main disciplines, which is on pen test, incident response, threat intel, intelligence-led testing, SOC, as well as vulnerability assessment, which is kind of part of penetration testing as well. So for us, as mentioned in the previous slides, we actually represent both organizations, not just certifications of individuals as well. So it's beyond just whether the person has the skill, but if a skilled person actually works for, say, organizations, right, that's delivering all these services, that the organization is actually utilizing them properly as well, that the services, the processes eventually is, providing all that level of assurance to all these organizations, right? And it's very important in that sense as well, because when companies engage service providers, right, because they have the expertise, right, But at the end of the day, although they're engaging them, they are in fact an extension to that, right? We are in the day and age, we talk a lot about supply chain, right? Eventually, even when you engage all these service providers, you want to make sure that the people that they hire, the organization processes, they themselves, they are secure, they themselves, the organization are sound, right? So we actually have all these accreditation processes that ensure that service providers that is providing all these services are actually of a high quality and of a high assurance that that is eventually are delivered to all these organizations. So how do we actually build trust? What actually are we building exactly? So how being part of a membership organization representing service providers, organization as well as certified individuals, how are we bringing all these things together? It's not is it as simple as just having a process and just making sure companies take the check all the check boxes, or is it just having certifications, having exams, individual comes in, you pass it, great, that's it, right? It's actually beyond that. For CREST, we actually do a lot of value adding to our members. We are not just a certification or examination body. It's not as simple as that. So the value that we propose, or the value that we bring to the digital world, to the industry, is actually by building 4 our main values, which is on capability building, capacity, consistency, and collaboration, and around bringing, again, back to our 2 main stakeholders, which are the individuals, right? The individuals that we certify, as well as the organization that we accredit. So let me just get down a little bit into these values that actually binds off us all, right? So, as since the inception back in mid 2000s until today, the whole idea is really pushing that boundary, making sure that people get more skilled, service provided by service providers in all the 5 areas, all the 5 disciplines that we represent, get better, right? So there's there is some kind of level of benchmark that it's not just organizations saying, I sell penetration testing. What exactly does that mean, right? So we actually have the industry together, set that standard, set that bar, and ensure that organizations actually meet them. Second value on capacity, right? We ensure that people that comes into this field actually are skilled enough to deliver all these services as well, right? I think that's one of the big questions we always ask. There's a lot of universities out there, lots of training providers out there selling all different kind of trainings. Eventually, even you get that cert, what does that actually mean, right? Can you eventually deliver that level of service? Are there enough skilled people around in the industry, in country like even Malaysia? How do we get there, right? At the end of the day, we need skilled people, right? So that's also the second value we kind of bring onto the table for the industry. Third, which is consistency, right? As we raise the bar of what good looks like, right? We ensure that everywhere you go, right? When you talk about what penetration testing is, it's pretty much the same, right? You will not get like one company just one company of that's talking about this penetration testing, but eventually you realize that it's just vulnerability assessment. Or you go to another company, you realize that they're not doing anything at all. It's just like going through like just another audit, for example, right? So we ensure that everywhere you go, there's a high bar of consistency of a high quality service, and everyone kind of speak over the same language. And lastly, which is a very, very important value among all, which is collaboration. It's not just us coming, when CREST was set up, it's not just a few of us coming in together and go like, all right, this is the standard, and that's it, right? And then everyone just reach to it. Putting on a standard actually requires a lot of effort in terms of stakeholders trying to get all the voices heard. Like, what exactly does that mean? You have a standards, and if it's not recognized, no one cares. You have a standards, no one practice it, doesn't matter, right? You have a standard, but it does not fulfill or help the governments, help the industries, help us as cybersecurity practitioners. It doesn't help service providers, companies. What does that matter at the end of the day? So we value quite a lot of in terms of collaborations among all stakeholders that have a foot in it. In the next couple of slides, I will touch on some of these collaborations as well, like what does that actually mean, right? So we actually talk we actually, as the security industry, raise the bar, right? Get service providers to raise the bar as well, right? Get government to recognize that eventually when we talk about security, it's always of that quality, as well as the buying community, right? People who eventually procure, acquire penetration testings and SOC and any other services actually recognize that you need to buy good, right? Rather than just going past the checkbox. The idea of compliance checkboxes at the end of the day is still going to be, it has still been an issue, and it's something that we are actively trying to promote a better ecosystem overall. So as Crest, we offer quite a lot of things. I kind of mentioned company accreditations and individual certification a little bit already. So there are many other things like if you're part of the ecosystem, there's lots of knowledge sharing as well as continuous professional development as well, right? So we also work closely with providers such as Hack the Box, Immersive Lab, and so on and so forth, that actually continuously bring value to our membership. So organizations that is already, or service providers are already part of our ecosystem, that we continue. It's not just having that Crest stamp that they can go out and shout out and say that, hey, they're selling quality services. That's definitely one of the primary goals. But on top of that, we also want to, how do we continuous value add that, get people involved in this? Because cybersecurity, unlike many other industries out there, right, it's not a simple buy and sell kind of industry. We all have a moral principles behind it as well, that we are securing better infrastructures and our digital lives that everyone kind of depend on, right? So as practitioners, it's not just representing the organizations, but eventually also all of us, we are representing the security ecosystem, and how can we elevate that? How can we ensure that the digital infrastructures, applications and systems, at the end, when we provide all these services, that they are, indeed providing that level of assurance. So earlier I mentioned, right, Crest, we are international, right? So it's not just like we are headquartered in UK and then we have representatives all around the world, and we are just doing the bidding with our HQ back in the UK. Crest, our internationalization, so our international structure is slightly different. Although our headquarters, our international headquarters is in the UK, but each region actually have its own council, and we actually feedback like exactly in the industry what does that actually mean, and how can we take the knowledge of Crest, the offerings of Crest, and eventually massage it and deliver it based on the needs of the region as well, right? So we have regions in Americas, Australasia, Asia, in Europe, right? So each council, each region actually always represent that region and deliver Crest value individually. And in Crest, in Asia, very honored that I actually have a very great, diverse and very capable team who they themselves also work for Crest members, and they volunteer and help to drive the quality of Crest in this region. So if you look at it, we have representatives from Singapore to Malaysia, Thailand, Hong Kong, Indonesia, and all the way to India as well. So we have a big presence in Asia. Not going to go too much about that. We have quite a lot of members, lots of consultants, lots of practitioners. So do come and join us. So in the next couple of slides, kind of want to talk a little bit about more from a collaboration point of view and how overall all this conversation kind of raise standards in Asia. So some of the things that we have done, right? So in Asia, it's a tricky region because there's so many countries, so many different cultures as well, right? So our main three countries that we actually do quite a lot of work in is Singapore, Hong Kong, and Malaysia. Malaysia, definitely we are having more and more footprints over here, and that's why we are here today at NACSA as well, and also building up in Indonesia and Thailand. So in Asia, especially when we have a strong presence over here, we actually have conversations, say with governments around the world, right? Try to understand what's their need, try to understand from their point of view what security assurance is about, what are kind of challenges that they have been facing, and some of this, we actually advise them. We actually part of this conversation quite a lot, And one of the initiative that is of quite a high recognition, definitely for CREST, is, say, the adoption of CREST standards in Singapore. So in Singapore, if you are providing penetration testing, you must be CREST certified, or you must be CREST accredited companies as well, right? So in other parts of the countries, we are having similar conversations. Some countries, they are saying that they're not 100% ready yet. You know, we are continuing having that conversation with all these organizations. How can we meet? How can we eventually get there? Because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that services, especially all these high critical services to provide assurance, are of the higher quality around this region. So it's not just Singapore. Beyond our region, there's also in the Middle East, right? So in UAE, now to provide penetration testing as well as incident response, you must be CREST accredited and certified as well. So CREST, we provide lots of member proposition, lots of values to members, organizations to us, who are with us. Some of them already kind of covered that when I mentioned all the different values that CREST brings onto the table. I think one thing over here that really highlights a lot about CREST is we actually helps a lot of, especially small enterprises, right? Small teams. Because at the end, is again in the whole industry, there's just so many different companies, right? And we know that end user organizations, people who are procuring all these services, they themselves have no idea how do they even get started, which company to even choose, right? So quite a lot of these organizations, they are none the wiser. Eventually, they go for the big names, right? They go for the big fours, go to your Deloitte, PwC, and so on and so forth. So some of these, if you are a small organization, you will start thinking like, how do you compete where people actually have no idea, have no knowledge about the market at all, right? So CREST is actually, we actually provide that level playing field quite a bit, right? By signposting what good looks like, right? So if say the big fours, right? Some of the big names in cybersecurity, if they have shown that they are providing CREST quality services, right? And if you are a small organization and you are also CREST accredited, and that shows that you are also delivering the services of that standard as well, that actually elevates your organization or your of your delivery quite a lot as well. So CREST, we all around, we actually help and drive the industry capabilities quite high. It's not just like big companies are the one that is providing quality services, but small enterprise are the cheaper, not so good options. It's not, right? So we kind of drive the whole industry towards the upward trajectory, right? So to ensure that even though the market generally always like to race to the bottom, but at the end of the day, it's still of a high quality that service providers within the CREST ecosystem are providing that level of high quality. So we support businesses, as mentioned just now. We raise standards and we build out frameworks. We even go out there, especially the last couple of years. We start to be more involved in conversations with the buyers, right? On how do they start? How should they shop, right? How do they choose companies when they are procuring all these services? What do that actually means? It's not just another checkbox of compliance, but as an extension of the assurance that they are getting from these service providers back to their overall governance, risk assessment, and so on and so forth. Right. So we have, as mentioned, we have lots of services and lots of conversations around that. On our website, we also have a portal that shows, that helps buying community where to get the right vendors, where to get the right service providers as well. Right. And just now, as I mentioned, we work closely with governments, and Singapore governments, UAE government is one of few. We actually have quite a lot of conversation with the Malaysian government as well, with NACSA, with CSM, and so on and so forth. So it's important, it's very, very important for us to have this conversation with governments, because when you talk about cybersecurity, the perspective or what is needed or what is wanted by government is vastly different, right? For organizations, it's just about protecting their organization, about their companies, their infrastructure. But from a government point of view, it's totally different, right? We are talking about protecting the essential services, which generally speaking is also powered mainly by private organizations, right? How do then they ensure that they have good, they are practicing good supply chain risk? How are they ensuring that all the services, all the checks they have done, all the security controls that they need to implement are good, right? So we work closely with them to ensure how we drive the whole industry on the upward trajectory, and again, to prevent the industry taking the approach of racing to the bottom, of price war, just making sure that they can deliver the minimal services. Working with the governments, ensure that we kind of bring the whole industry and the whole ecosystem and the services up as an industry within the country, and so on and so forth. So lots of examples of how we work closely together on, as mentioned earlier, listed on this slide as well, on supply chain, on protecting critical national infrastructures, coming out with frameworks, on providing services. And last but not least, another key stakeholders we work with are academia partners. So I know that there are quite a lot of academia's representative here in CIDES. Happy to have conversations on how we can support you guys better as well. With our value, one of our main value on driving up capacity. So we do. We do, and we are open to quite a lot of support for universities and other training institutions, events, and so on and so forth as well. And that's all, right? It's a very quick summary touching about what we do over here as CREST, not just being an accreditation and certification body, but as a collaborator, right? Talking to the industry, representing the practitioners, bridging the gap between governments and the industry. How do we elevate cybersecurity together and build, at the end of the day, build trust in the digital world. So thank you very much. I'm not sure whether there are any questions on the floor, but we are actually just diagonally over here with our booth. So come and talk to us how we can help everyone, be it if you are buying community, or if you are buying or you're end user protecting your own companies, or if you are a service provider yourself. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hamilton, for the fruitful presentations. All right, we have another session coming in, another 10 minutes. Please be here because we're going to have the last presentation cyber podium by Deloitte Company. Please come over here if you want to hear about the presentation, all right?